Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Perth Township of Perth East meeting for Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023. And I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And I would ask everybody to take a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. Confirmation of the agenda, and I think the clerk has an addition.
Yes, thanks, Hugh. So we have an addition to item number 7.1.1, correspondence that was received from a few members of the community: Chuck Meyer, Fritz Ryder, Jim and Rita Schneiker, Stacy Court, Jason Lantz, Travis Hammer, and Diane Loyton.
Okay, with that addition, could I have somebody move the Jeremy, seconder Jerry? All those in favor? Okay, you can disclose your pecuniary interest now and the general nature thereof at any time during the meeting. We now have a consent agenda. I believe there's 24 on our consent agenda. Is there anybody that would like any of them pulled? No, not seeing any.
Okay, so the motion reads to receive the consent agenda item numbers 5.1.1 to 5.124 and the minutes of the Perth East Public Library Board May 9th, 2023 meeting be received for information, and further that the minutes of the May 2nd, 2023 regular meeting of council be adopted.
Okay, moved by Andrew, second by Bob. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. We'll move to delegations, and tonight we have Bill Dietrich, and he will give us an update on Wagler-Schantz Municipal Drain. And take it away, Bill.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Bill.
Okay, very good. Just wanted to double check. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the consideration of the Wagler-Schantz Municipal Drain 2023. This project was initiated under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, and our final reports have been circulated to the landowners that will be accessible for this project and to the members of council. So if you have a copy of our report, if you had a chance to review it, I'll just be referring to the plan that's attached to the at the back of the report, and I'll review the information that's on that drawing, and then we'll get into some of the details of this project. Again, I guess initially, as I mentioned, this was a project was under a petition, and we had, I believe, 7 property owners or 7 owners of property within the area requiring drainage had signed the petition. An on-site meeting was held to review what work was proposed or required under the Act. And at that meeting, we had an opportunity to review the area requiring drainage and also the petition. The area that we've established for this new system encompasses a drainage area of approximately 175 hectares of land, or 432 acres. And you'll see on the plan there, the dotted blue line around the outside of the drainage basin is the watershed boundary, and then it's a sub-watershed of the Nectal Municipal Drain. In other words, all the lands and roads within that catchment area drain into the Nectal Drain. And the outlet is on lot 3 of concession 6. You'll see also there is some areas on the plan that are hatched out. Those are lands that have been tile drained out of this drainage basin, and they've been assessed accordingly in our drainage report. And after we had completed the field work, we had an information meeting back here on March the 1st to review our plans for this project. And at that meeting, we reviewed the design of the drain, the estimated cost of the project. And we had preliminary numbers on what the costs as far as assessment of costs as well. So in that proposal, at that time we had proposed to there was 3 parts to the project. There was the main drain, and we're proposing 2 branches. But at that meeting, we were asked to look at the feasibility of combining branches A and B together. And you'll see in the final report, we have the main drain, which is the orange line that's on the plan, and the green line, which is going to be the branch that will be constructed will be known as Branch A. Now, the main drain outlets, as I mentioned earlier, into the Nectal drain. We're going to be incorporating the existing ditch that's presently provides the outlet for this area. And also there'll be some work required on the upstream of the Township Road on line 41 on the Wagler property. The first section there will be station 108 up station 400. 77 meters then of the open channel on the Ray Wagler property and that will be enclosed with an 825 millimeter diameter pipe. From there on up, it's going to be a closed system. New tile drain will be installed through the Shantz property and the Cobra Farms Limited. And the upper end of this drain is at the northeast corner of Lot 6 in Concession 4. So this tile drainage system also includes the construction of and the installation of two new road crossings, and we'll be crossing Road 102 and Line 40. Also, there's approximately about 169 meters of the existing open ditch on the Shantz property, which will be filled in as well as part of the main drain system. We've designed this new pipe system for a 1.5 inch drainage coefficient, and we've estimated the cost of the work for the main drain at $308,100. This includes the construction costs, the allowances that'll be provided to the landowners for right-of-way and damages to lands and crops, and also the township's administration and engineering costs. So that's the main part of the system, and all the lands and the roads within the watershed are accessible for the main drain. There's a branch drain that will be was petitioned for as well. It's referred to on the drawing as Branch A. This new tile system will consist of 300 millimeter drain at the upper end of the drain and 350 millimeter tile at the lower end of the drainage system. Total length of Branch A is 612 meters, and it also includes a road crossing under line 40. There'll be catch basins installed on both sides of the road. We've estimated the cost for Branch A at $91,400. So that's a quick review or summary. The purpose of this meeting is to consider the work that's being proposed here, and I've quickly kind of outlined the work that is being planned here for the construction of this new drainage system that'll be known as the Wagler Shantz Municipal Drain 2023. So if there's any questions from council or landowners on the drain, I'll be pleased to answer those.
Anybody have any questions on council?
Yep.
Oh, Jerry?
Yep, thanks, Bill. Can we just get a reminder, the township, we're pretty well picking up half of this. Can we just get a reminder why we do not get any government grants for this, for any type of drain similar to this?
Okay, under all projects under the Drainage Act, and this is a provincial municipal drain, but it's administered by the municipality, as like all drains that are constructed in the province. The ministry and work that's being planned here is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So the Minister of Agriculture does provide a 1/3 grant to all landowners that are eligible for the ADIP grant, which is the Agricultural Drainage Infrastructure Program, but it only applies to lands within the watershed. If and to be eligible, my understanding is the ministry sets the guidelines for that. You have to be farm class tax rated, and your roads are not farm class tax rated, so there's no grants through the ADIP program for road assessment. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else that had any questions? And if anybody present at the meeting would like to add or remove their name from the petition, please come forward. Seeing no one, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder for this. Oh. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Just if council is in consensus to waive the rules of the procedural bylaw to consider the motion at this point in time rather than under new business. Looking for just nods or head. Okay. So the motion reads then that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the presentation from Bill Dietrich, Drainage Superintendent from Dietrich Engineering Limited, Wegler-Schantz Municipal Drain 2023, parts of lots 2 to 7, concession 4, parts of lot 2 to 6, concession 5, and parts of lots 3 and 4, concession 6 in the Northeast Hope Ward, Township of Perth East, County of Perth for information, and that the Court of Revision for the Wegler-Schantz Municipal Drain 2023 be held on June 20th at 6:30 p.m.
Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Jeremy. Second by Bob. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we have a public meeting, and for that there's a script to read. I declare this public meeting to be open. This public meeting is being held to consider a proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment affecting property currently owned by 1803018 Ontario Inc., Koa Jeff and Angie Bateman. The legal address is Concession 3, Part Lot 6, ASRP 447271, Milverton Ward, Concession 3, Part Lot 6, and ASRP 447271, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. This meeting is an opportunity for the township to advise the public of the purpose and intent of the amendment and receive their input prior to considering adoption of an implementing bylaw. If a bylaw is adopted to implement the official plan amendment and zoning amendment, a notice of passing will be forwarded by prepaid first-class mail to various agencies of interest and others who have requested notice. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the adoption of the bylaw may be filed with the clerk not later than the date stated on the notice. Any person attending this meeting who wishes to receive written notice of a bylaw passed to implement the amendment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the clerk following this meeting. No written notice except as previously noted will be given unless requested by email following the meeting. All persons attending this meeting will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. I will now call on Planner Jeff Bannon to present planning report and recommendations.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen in PowerPoint. So this zoning or official plan amendment is for number 12 within the Milverton Ward OP, and the zoning bylaw amendment is Z12-2022. The subject lands are 11.6 hectare parcel of land, and it's adjacent to the settlement boundary in Milverton. It's located on the west side of Perth Road 131 between line 61 and Wilfrid Street. The site is irregularly shaped and is also adjacent to the terminus of Temperance Street. The county official plan has designated the property as Special Policy A, agricultural with special permissions which allow for employment uses, which are industrial uses, urban fringe, and natural resources environment in the county official plan. Within the Milverton Ward official plan, the amendment is proposing to designate the lands as residential, highway commercial, and industrial. The applicant is suggesting that a site-specific residential designation is placed on the woodland areas on the site, which are on the south end of the property, in order to prevent or to prohibit development in those areas, and that this policy would then need to be consistent with the County of Perth official plan natural resources environment designation. The amendment to the County of Perth official plan is intended to bring the subject lands into the Milverton settlement area and to redesignate the lands as serviced urban area. The property is abutting agricultural fields to the west, the Perth East Recreational Complex to the north, single detached dwellings and commercial to the east, and a rod and gun club in the woodlot and industrial subdivision across the street, across line 61 to the south. A detailed planning analysis and recommendation will be provided at a future Perth East Council meeting. And a separate planning report has also been provided for information purposes to Perth East Council. That planning report provides additional information regarding the Perth County official plan amendment that will be discussed at the public meeting, which is to be held on May 18th, this Thursday. There are several different reports that have been submitted as part of the applications. There's a plan justification report, a scoped environmental impact study, the Milverton subdivision traffic brief, functional servicing report, preliminary stormwater management report, an MDS-1 worksheet, and an archaeological assessment. The existing zoning on the property is agricultural with future development in natural resources environment zone 2, which is within the Township of Perth East zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to rezone the lands to a medium density R2 zone with special provisions, which will allow for reduced lot frontages, lot areas, side yards, and minimum distance separation. Residential high density R3 zone with special provisions to allow for reduced side yards and an increased maximum lot coverage. A natural resources environment zone 2, an institutional zone, a highway commercial C3 zone with a holding provision, and an industrial M1 zone also with a holding provision. Those holding provisions are to be in place until a land use compatibility study and a scope traffic brief is completed to assess the site-specific proposed use on the property as part of the site plan approval process. A planned subdivision to develop the property with a total of 72 residential dwelling units has been submitted, which includes 27 single detached dwellings, 28 semi-detached dwellings, and 17 street townhomes. The subdivision plan also includes 2 commercial blocks, 2 industrial commercial blocks, 5 new streets, and 1 walkway. For our circulation, we have received various concerns that have been brought up by the public. One letter of opposition has been received from the Milverton and District Rod and Gun Club. They expressed a concern that the proposed development is incompatible with their existing operation, and they are of the opinion that given the proximity of the development to their existing operation, that they could deal with significant noise complaints relating to the discharge of firearms on their property. A second letter, which was in the form of a petition, was signed by 8 area residents. They have they brought up concerns with drainage, environment, traffic and safety in relation to the proximity to the recreational complex and pedestrian traffic, development costs that are associated with the development, and access for existing properties. The public concerns raised before and during this public meeting will be discussed with the applicant following the public meeting. Also, a detailed response will be included when a report with a planning recommendation is brought back to a future council meeting. Comments received tonight will be summarized as part of an update to the Perth County Council at the public meeting that is being held on Thursday. I'm available to answer any questions from the public or the applicant.
Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? They request that they give their name and address for the record when they are recognized. Whoever would like to go first. Ladies first. Bill first.
William A. Miller, address is 4866, line 59 in the Mornington Ward.
Matthew Livingstone, 90 Gribber Drive, Milverton. Chris Pettipies, at 201 Elm Street, Atwood, Ontario.
Deputy Mayor, councilors, and staff. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Ash. As I begin, I'd like to thank the support of Ashley Carter and help me steering towards finding the information. And secondly, I thank to Mr. Bannon for his continuous support in ensuring that I got to the right areas. And I'm understanding correctly that you inherited this portfolio not too long ago. Is that correct?
Yes, through the deputy mayor. Yes, I've been on this file since starting my position with the county, which was a couple of months ago.
Good. Not only am I am secretary of the, I'm the treasurer of the 148 owners of the Milverton District Rod and Gun. Matt here is president, and Chris is vice president, and we're representing their concerns in 3 key areas. The first one is noise. The second one is the protection of the rod and gun property. And the third is the effect of the recommendations of drainage put out by the MTE, I believe. And as I begin, we sent an official letter to the county, to Perth East. Has that letter been accepted?
Yeah, the correspondence that you provided is in the council package.
Okay. And it's a matter of record?
Yeah, this would be the official record of it. Yeah.
I have a question. How many members of council have reviewed the package for this amendment? So you found it was an extremely large amount of pages to go through all the reference reports. Yeah, good. The club and its members do support development in Perth East. And as you know, we have supported the development of the Percon site, which is located on line 61. However, there's 3 key areas which I mentioned. One was noise. Well, also looking at the reports that have been presented, we have a lot further questions that need to be scoped out and answered. We're asking the municipality to ensure that the studies that we are recommending are completed, the information passed on to all the stakeholders, and that includes the properties beside and the farmers downstream from this site based on the potential impact of water. To preface this, I'd like to begin with the planning justification report. It indicates that there was a housing market research study by Watson Association, which developed a 2015 plan. I could not find this on the Perth County site nor on the Perth East site. Is there a reason for that?
Mr. Miller, so through the county's official plan update process, they had Watson and Associates complete a updated study. So the 2015 report has been replaced. There's a more current study that is on the county website.
As that site indicated how much housing we needed for the 25 years. And it's unfortunate we don't have a base of standing, because in 2015, there was probably approximately 800 homes within the village limits. I might not have that exactly. The other thing that comes out on the report from Bakers is the elimination of the 1.75 acres that are recommended for recreational use. Now, since 2015, we've added a significant amount of houses in the Perth East of families. And within those families, there are a lot of use. We know that Perth East has tried to coordinate most of their recreational activities down at the Perth East complex. And it would be unfortunate to lose that additional 1.75 acres for as we grow, or the proposed grow, by some of the development. There is no other reference in that Baker study about the 12-acre Pew property that's within the village limits that has been labeled for housing, nor the Erickson property on Mill Street East, which in 2015 had been labeled and zoned for housing, nor does it mention housing and development in Mill Street Junction. So the case is, do we need all this extra housing? And we've had no information to indicate that we do, other than the wording that's in the report. And you indicated a new current report, but the Baker report, there is nothing in there that indicates that there is a new report and the housing should be larger. I find that disturbing. Now, as far as the rod and gun is concerned, the noise is a criteria. I know Jeff personally, and I know Jeff is a hunter. I know Jeff has firearms, and he knows the potential impact of noise. Currently, there has been a fair amount of rod and guns closed over the last 20 years due to noise. The Linwood Club, the Pioneer Club lost its outdoor range, the Wilmot Rod and Gun Club, the St. Agatha, and the last one that had the most impact was the club at Tavistock. Landowners change, and at Tavistock, that happened. The issues came up. The person raising the issues involved the provincial government, which was the Ministry of Environment. And just to give you a base level, the conversation between two people is 60 decibels. And as far as the Ministry of Environment is concerned, on their site, 65 decibels is the maximum. Now, I know there's people in this room who hear the noise. In fact, one of our counselors has commented to me that he can hear the noise at his place. But is the noise level at his place above the 65 decibels? I don't believe so. We need a study to ensure that noise will not be an issue to the new owners in this development. If noise is going to be an issue, there is solutions and remedies. And those solutions and remedies can be explored and mitigated, because this is a business transaction that you're looking to approve. And I know from Mr. Bateman's perspective, there's probably going to be millions of dollars invested to get the property to the level that he wants. And I believe he wants a return on his investment. I don't think none of us would want otherwise. But in the same token, the adjoining properties, the Rod and Gun, and the other stakeholders don't want to be put in a position where they're financially challenged, especially the Rod and Gun Club, which is a nonprofit organization. The MTV report recommends fencing. I believe for the protection of the bush, which is listed as environmentally protection, and for protection of the Milford District Rod Club, which is a firing range, that recommendation is not sufficient, that it should be properly fenced to keep people from moving in and destroying the bush that is listed environmentally sensitive. The next one is difficult to look at it. The MTE report. The MTE report indicates, and I'm going to go to acreage. Sorry, acreage is more simple for me than hectares. That 16 acres of that development will be put under construction of roads, houses, sidewalks, etc. And to give you some perspective, 1 inch of rainfall is about 20,000 imperial gallons per acre. The annual rainfall recorded for Ontario on average is 36.8 inches during a calendar year. And this becomes important as we go on in this discussion. So what we have is roughly 12.5 million gallons of water that will no longer be absorbed in a calendar year into the soil. The question becomes, for the Rod and Gun in this example, whose elevation, according to the reports, is lower, does this destroy the movement of water into feed, which is designated in the Natural Resources, Inc. on Mr. Bateman's property and on ours as swamp? Now, it's also indicated on the MTE report that there's a ridge line within that area, which is correct. But the ridge line going through the Rod and Gun, when they buried the water line back in 1967, 68, went through sand. And I can speak historically for the property that is now the lagoon, which was my uncle's at that point in time. We used to go down there and, well, not me, it'd be parents at that time, and dig out sand to bring back to different farms for different usage. And one thing about a sand ridge, number one, we don't know how deep it is, but water moves through sand, not through an impervious layer. So there is potential that the water flow directed to the environmental bush will be impacted. Now this needs to be verified, which is usually hydrological study. There's two that have been done that I know of. One was back in the 60s, and not so sure looking at council who's up in that age group. But Milverton was looked at in a trough area for natural gas development, and the company at that point in time went around and made deals with certain properties to discover this trough, which apparently ends up in Lake Huron. That's one. There was also a study on the water that was done after the Walkerton disaster. I happened to sit on a panel that looked at the water, and I do understand that the water that Milverton currently drinks can be traced back to originating the flow near Millbank. So knowing where the water goes and the effect that it does is important. So that covers the rod and gun. But I want to look back, just before we leave that, I want to look back at the Baker report. I don't see any signature. I don't see any corporate seal on the bottom of that report. That's a legal document. I don't know how it was accepted otherwise. And that is the basis of why we're here tonight. Now we'll look at the natural resources solution. If you happen to read through it, they classify the area as swamp, but MTE classifies the area as wetlands. There's a distinct difference on what can be done with swamp area and wetlands regarding construction, regarding the effects, the long-term effects. That has to be somehow found out and clarified. Now downstream. Just give me a second here. And before we get to that, I'm looking at figure 4.1 of the preliminary grade plan, and I've noticed a retaining wall being built around a portion of the subdivision. And I'm wondering why. And the other thing that was that I missed that was on the Baker report, there was no historical looking at the land other than listing it as agricultural. Yet zoning lists it as agricultural industrial. Was there ever any farm buildings on there? Wells, manure yards? That's before my time. I can't even answer that question, but that's something that needs to be known to understand the quality of what's going on here. What I do know, though, is on Main Street South, Mr. Bateman's proposal touching lot 46 and 48, there was 2 bulk petroleum depots that were closed in the 60s. And at that point in time, the Ministry of Environment did not have an environmental process for closing down those properties. And one thing about hydrocarbons, they move. The village of Milverton will know about the house that happened on Temperance Street, where the oil leakage from that house and that property went on to the next property, and that took quite a few years to clean up. And the village of Milverton will also know about the ambulance station. Jerry, do you remember that about the ambulance station, how they had to dig that out for over 2 years to clear up the hydrocarbons? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So in that context, to protect Mr. Bateman, to protect the potential lot owners, we need a phase 1 environmental study done on that property. And to also protect Perth East, if there happens to be future intermediate by lawyers over the homework not being done on the property. Now, I mentioned a little earlier about the flow, which is on half of the property, of a little over 12 million gallons of water in 12 months, which goes into, by MTE's report, goes into, let me get the exact words. I highlighted most of it. I got to find where my highlights are. Wetlands. Where do the wetlands go? Well, based on the topographic information provided by MTE, they flow down to the southeast corner at line 61. And within the MTA report, there's talk of 80 millimeter piping for storm sewers, which in non-metric is about 10 inches, and 300 millimeter piping for discharging in other areas, which is an awful lot larger. And unfortunately, the pipe that is crossing 19 Highway, where this discharges into, is only 10 inches. Now, I do understand that there's a holding area for the water that's proposed in there, but the water has to leave the holding area. And the holding area has an outflow if there's significant rainfall. And the outflow just flows over the top, which is, I believe, according to the study, is a major rain within 5 years. But what that leads to me as a landowner is some key questions, and it's too bad we lost Bill, because he could certainly answer that. All this water flows into the McCloy Drain. It's an open ditch that was built in the late 1800s and early 1900s. It has 2 branches. And those 2 branches meet with the Hunter Drain, which drains the north section of this proposed development and currently takes a fair amount of storm water from the village of Milverton. And we all know what a significant rainfall has done to the village of Milverton. It blew the sewers off down at the rec center. And I believe they even had to put a municipal truck or a fire truck to hold down the caps at that time. So there's a very large amount of water flows into an open drainage system that was designed and built roughly about 100 years ago. And I also know, and Wes can correct me if I'm wrong, the municipality has recognized and put in larger sewers on roadways. They did the 2 sewers between line 61 and line 59 here about 5-6 years ago. I do know that putting a sewer on my farm to connect 2 fields, compared to the recommendation and approval was for a sewer that was 30% larger. However, there's still a lot of bridge crossings who are, we shall call them historic. They're undersized, and I believe the McCloy open ditch is undersized for the amount of water that comes into it. I believe the people from Milverton will have seen on the east side of line 61, as you go out towards the FS Partners, that ditch overflowing with water, which is a storm drain that comes down from Main Street south and is unable to get to the ditch. There's a lot of water comes in because we got asphalt, buildings, etc. Now we do have on the McCloy drain, we've had one farmer who's had to build an embankment along the McCloy drain to try and keep the water in so it didn't go across his farmland. Because water does 2 things. It destroys crop and it impacts soil long term. There's plenty of studies done now. A handful of soil, as an example, contains millions of organisms, and water sitting on for a period of time causes damage to the soil and long-term impact on yields. Now, with the impact of this water and crop loss, I wonder who's going to pick up the tab. And then we get to where the McCloy drain reaches the Hunter drain. The village of Milverton has a distinct advantage over the area. It's natural elevation. The Hunter drain traditionally releases most of its water before the McCloy drain is allowed to release. They come together about 1.5 to 2 kilometers east of Mill Street West. So that has to be looked at for water volume. I don't want to take too much of anybody's time. I will provide, when I see Mr. Bannon in a couple of days, I'll be providing him with some more of the written questions. I've actually received some information tonight already on the effect of noise and what has happened to historic businesses other than Rod and Gun at their expense to correct noise issue, and I'll incorporate that into the new document for you, Mr. Bannon. So in summary, we do support development, the right fit, but we need to ensure that we do not impact the owners around us or the stakeholders downstream. I don't think that's the intent of council. And we all have one farmer here, and I don't see him here tonight. However, I don't know if you had a chance to give a heads up, Jerry, but once this goes through, he will not be able to add anything to his animal husbandry operation. His whole farm will be in the exclusion zone. Any questions?
If there's any questions, was the agent on the Zoom?
She is. She can speak when it's.
Okay. Okay. Is there any questions from council at this time? Jerry?
Just a couple points of clarification. So, and obviously, I'm sure staff and Jeff will get this information. Would this proposal require, as Mr. Miller suggested, an EA study? So, just curious about that. And I'm curious about the one Mr. Miller spoke about 1.75 acres that are recreation that are going to be lost. Whereabouts is that in the parcel? Just
Up against the soccer field, according to the 2015 meeting.
Jeff, do you want to answer about the EA?
Through the Deputy Mayor, a Class EA has not been determined to be required at this time. And I'm not sure exactly the area that he's speaking to where lands are going to be lost. Maybe you could provide a little bit more information on that, and I can bring up the subdivision plan drawing, and we can discuss it.
Okay. Bill?
Thank you. I would request that
All correspondence and emails regarding this development be made accessible if needed.
Should be able to. Okay, Mr. Levin.
Sorry, just want to circle back to a point where we established in our earlier letter, being 1967 is when the club came to be. We incorporated a little bit further past that in the 90s. However, what we do have is an established legal right to use that property, and we do see an incompatibility based on Planning Act. I have not seen anything to address that in any of the reports yet, so I'm wondering if there's anything that can be spoken to talk about the incompatibility between our two lands. We've been long established within our property. The usage has a bylaw as well that has been enacted. So we are legally in our right to continue to use our property. As Bill has mentioned, we don't want to impose on our new or possible new neighbors that would be coming into that property as well. We wouldn't want them to be purchasing a home and not being aware of our usage of our land, because the last thing we want is an undue burden put onto the club. As Bill has highlighted, some of these clubs that have had to close, a lot of these studies that they've been asked to participate in or things that they've been asked to do come at a cost in which a nonprofit cannot sustain. Things that would close the club without doubt. For our 180 some odd members and owners of our club, they should have some feedback on how it's been reviewed for incompatibility as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so just sort of a question for Jeff, and not to put you on the spot, it's maybe something to take back. I hear the concerns around the incompatibility, and I actually am familiar with the Wilmot gun situation. I actually have been to that club a number of years ago, and so I understand the concern regarding people moving into the community that are from here and that might have concerns. And I know there's been situations, I think, is it Burlington and a few other areas across the province where this sort of thing has happened. I think, we have been asked by the province to build more homes, and I think we have to find a balance. And so I don't know, Jeff, if there's a jurisdictional scan or anything we can sort of look at, or creative solutions that have happened in other jurisdictions in the province or even elsewhere on how to sort of address this sort of situation. But would love to see if there was an opportunity to look into that piece. So just wanted to make that one comment.
For an example, the Tavistock Club had to build a shooting house out of cement and have the appropriate linings on the inside to negate the escape of noise that it became so very minor. I've been in shooting houses in Basel and in Dusseldorf, and they're 250-yard ranges, military rifles, and if you were standing 30 feet away from where they were shooting, you would hardly know that they were shooting. So there is solutions for noise.
At a cost,
Yes.
an exorbitant cost.
Yeah, I guess really hear you. I think really what I'm thinking more so is a jurisdictional scan on, from a planning perspective, specifically how it's addressed, not necessarily putting, the onus on the club, because the next thing that would happen is you'd be coming to the township for money of how to, alleviate those costs. And I can't see that, I can't speak for everyone, but I just can't see that happening. So I'm curious to see, often when we're making policy decisions, we look at other jurisdictions and how they've handled it and in this case, from a planning perspective. I think there's a few cases, especially in Ontario, where it's becoming more urbanized all the time. There's been communities where, again, that are historical gun clubs like ours, and now there's urban pressures. So I'm just curious. Again, something for Jeff to take back and to look into. I think curious to see how that could be handled or treated, perhaps.
We appreciate that, Amanda. Thank you. And just for a final remark is, not only are our members coming to utilize their lawful use of our property for their sport, but they're also coming into the community. Okay. We also run events. We're bringing people, 50, 100, depending on the size of the event. We're bringing people into Milverton as well. Our businesses are being used as well in those situations. The club itself purchases everything locally for all of our events. People come in, buy gas. People come into the grocery store. People come into the restaurants. This is a point of tourism. We are not just a bunch of people coming for a single use to one property. We are owners using our property, but we also are bringing in people to this community that are helping to grow it and partake in our businesses and our tourism and travel. So please keep that in mind as well when you make decisions. Thank you.
Okay, was there any other questions? Andrew?
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I ask a question of the planner? Is that the appropriate time? In the script?
Good evening, I'm Rita Schneiker, 57 Temperance Street, Milverton, and I come tonight as a spokesperson for the residents in and around that area.
Point of clarification, is this group in opposition?
Yeah, we're doing opposition now.
Thank you.
Yep, we're doing opposition.
My name's Fred Ryder, 80 Main Street South. My box number is 298, Milverton, Ontario. Thank you.
So as residents and having seen lots of different ideas for development down there, we wrote a letter to our Perth County Planning Department in December.
Sorry, Rita, I don't mean to cut you off. Do you mind just moving a bit closer to the mic so we can make sure that our planner can hear you as well? Sorry, thanks.
So we sent out this letter to the planner on December 7th, as well as to a few other people. We're most disappointed that our letter was never acknowledged and we never received any response. Recognizing planners have changed, I think we kind of got forgotten, which is a little bit frustrating and leaves us a bit behind. I appreciate your comments. I can tell you read the letter from your discussion earlier, and wanted to let you know that we still have a lot of questions that have never been answered. So, key concerns for us. We're not opposed to development either. We have a few wishes or questions for you. First one being, before any development should start, we would wish that the access road would be constructed. The road Wilfrid going in by the perk and around the playground and the swimming pool and the kids, it's a very narrow road, not ready for construction equipment. So our first request would be that the access road be fully completed before allowing construction to begin. Second, you heard from Bill, drainage is huge for us, as is elevation. The Ryder Pugh Municipal Drain is right in the middle of the proposed subdivision. This drain was constructed to remove water from the areas on Main Street South from the backyards. We have not seen the plans, but we're wondering what the proposal is to either move, replace, or change that drain, which is very necessary because currently it drains a fair number of backyards in that area. As well as the drain, we're also very concerned about the elevation of this land. If construction and elevation gain happens, it'll be disastrous for the properties that abut to this development until the perfect drainage plan is in place. Thirdly, you've heard all about the proximity to the rod and gun and noise. Existing residents kind of accept the rod and gun. It's been there, and I'm going to say most of us accept that. Now, will new residents tolerate the noise? Questionable on that one. So those are three of our main questions, and there are more that we would like some answers to. Sometimes when there's talks about development blocks, for instance, 46 and 49, we don't know what it is. The legend doesn't tell us, and that's kind of puzzling. On some plans, there's a block 47 that appeared, and on other plans, it's not there. When we were first given the plans, legends were missing. So we're thinking it was a very sloppy way of informing the residents, and through that, we did get together and we then drafted a number of questions that we have for you. So I wanted to bring you concerns of the residents, and we're hoping for some answers to the questions that we have asked. You want to add something?
Yeah, Bill, was that retaining wall, what's that retaining wall gonna go? Like, I give you an example. The elevation they raised behind the liquor store was about 10 feet. Is that the plan back there? To raise the elevation 10 feet behind our properties, or the 8, or the even 2 feet, should be even. On the Ryder Pugh drain, it's my corner of the property, the 2 catch basin. On the way the plan shows, you're gonna put the road on an ankle, and there'll be houses all the way down. So where you gonna put that drain? You have to be 15 feet away on each side of a municipal drain. We just replaced that 4 years ago. put bigger tiles in. Because the ball diamond goes in there, the field, and all the back properties, my neighbors. And the way you want to build the houses, you have no place to put that drain. Not according to the sketch here.
So we'd like to see where that drain will be going, and we have not seen that given to us.
See, since you build all them houses, you can't put that drain straight down to the third line. It won't work because the houses are too close. So, on the well, I mentioned before, the retaining wall, what do you need a retaining wall? They're going to raise the elevation. That's the only time you need a retaining wall. I like to know that. So, the original plan actually was that Temperance Street goes straight through instead of on an ankle. Another thing, I like access to my backyard. Wes told me I probably won't get it. Thanks, Wes.
So thank you for listening. I think we share the rod and gun. Obviously, the drainage, elevation, noise of the rod and gun, and look to see how those questions can be answered and see what happens next.
One thing about the rod and gun, why do you have to shoot Sunday morning at 9 o'clock? People should go to church instead of shooting guns.
That's another meeting.
There.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, ladies, gentlemen.
Thank you. Was there anybody else that was going to speak in opposition? Okay, not seeing anybody. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the applicant other than the applicant agent? And I request that they give their name and address for the record when they are recognized. Seeing no one. Does the applicant or their agent have any comments in respect to the application and the draft zoning bylaw or the comments that have been made?
Good evening, Chair. My name is Mary Lou Tanner. I'm with NPG Planning Solutions, and I'm here on behalf of Carolyn Baker and the Baker Planning Group. I do have a presentation. I'm going to share my screen, although I will also do my very best to reply to some of the feedback that has been provided this evening by the neighbors to the site, and I thank them for their feedback. I did take notes. And if I miss something, please bring it to my attention at the end, and I'll be happy to provide an answer to the best of my ability. Are you able to see my screen?
No, we can't see it yet.
My apologies. Unfortunately, I'm having technical difficulties with sharing it, but let me, in the interest of time, proceed with the presentation.
Mary Lou,
application before.
Sorry, Mary Lou. I think you had sent a copy over to us, so we can click through it here if you'd want.
That would be much appreciated.
Can you see it on Can you see it on your end, our screen?
I can. Yes. Thank you very much. We can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, I'm here on behalf of Baker Planning Group. There are a number of consultants who have worked on this application, as some of our neighbors have noted in reading and reviewing the material, and also noting who the application is submitted on behalf of. We can go to the next slide. The subject site has been well provided to you, so we'll just move on to the next slide as well. And these are some images from the recreational center looking towards the site. And you can see, particularly in the lower slide, the woodlot that was referenced earlier this evening. Just wanted to provide that for context. Next slide, please. This is the proposed plan of subdivision. It has been submitted as an application to Perth County. And I just want to touch on what the colors mean on this slide. And you can see that Road 131 is at the bottom of the slide. So it's turned somewhat differently than earlier images, but just for context, so we can place everything on it. In the northern part of the site is the proposed residential development, and that's shown in yellow. The proposed higher density uses are actually street townhouses, and they are on the larger square blocks that you can see in the yellow. The two pink blocks are commercial. The blue block is the stormwater pond, and then the purple is the proposed industrial lots and area. The green is the natural environment area, and that's pretty consistent with the boundary that you can see on an air photo when you look at it. Next slide, please. As was mentioned earlier, this is for 72 residential units, and there are a variety of other uses on the site, including commercial and industrial, as well as the wooded area, which does include locally significant wetlands. Next slide, please. The proposal also includes an application to the County of Perth for inclusion of the lands in the settlement area in the Milverton ward. In addition, as Planner Benham mentioned, we are proposing in the official plan amendment specific designations to recognize the various uses. We'll go to the next slide, please. The zoning bylaw amendment application is to implement the zoning of the subdivision, and as identified and consistent with and conforming to the official plan. The plan of subdivision, in addition to the uses that have been identified, would also create the road network, which you can see on this slide, but also on the plan of subdivision. We'll go to the next slide, please. The natural heritage study that was completed included a significant amount of field work to assess all the requirements of the province of Ontario. There is a locally significant wetland on the site, and you can see some of the boundaries of it that's outlined in blue. In addition, this is a significant woodland, as consistent with the Perth County official plan, and there is a buffer area also proposed to protect the woodland and the wetland. There are other features in there, including some species at risk and some significant wildlife habitat. It's all protected by the boundary of that natural area. Next slide, please. We did complete a traffic study, and the local road system can accommodate the traffic from it. Within the traffic brief, we also identified that there are no road improvement requirements as a result of the development. There are some options for some traffic demand management, which would include assisting with directing traffic out to County Road 131, as well as some proposed stop signs to address concerns of cut-through traffic going to Temperance Street and ensuring that traffic is slowed down through Temperance Street with those stop signs. Next slide, please. The stormwater features that we've heard about this evening include the stormwater pond. There is some grading required in order to match the grades and to get the water to flow through to the stormwater pond, where it will dissipate out into the natural environment. And the retaining wall is there to ensure the grades do match. The detailed engineering will be done through the implementation of the plan of subdivision. Go to the next slide, please. We heard a bit about minimum distance separation, and we have applied the guidelines of the province of Ontario to this proposed plan of subdivision. We do use the guidance in that. We are requesting a reduction for one of the properties that is within the vicinity. We do believe it does meet the tests and requirements of the guidelines and can be supported. And in doing so, it would not limit expansion of those farms. Next slide, please. In our opinion, the proposed development is appropriate for the county official plan amendment. It does implement the Watson study that was done in 2019, which is available on the Perth County website for those residents who are interested in it. And within the Baker Planning Report, it is referenced on page 36 as well, for those residents who want to see the summary in the Baker Report about it. We do believe that this supports the growth of housing that has been identified by the county for Milverton. 13 hectares are required, and we are proposing 3.52 hectares to implement that new housing. This is a logical extension from the north to the south and links what's the neighborhood to the north with the Percon development to the south. And we have completed all the required studies. And just to note, the phase 1 environmental site assessment that was referenced by the representatives from the gun club was not a requirement of any of the applications. It's typically not required when agricultural land is being looked at for development for residential housing. Next slide, please. The proposed mixed-use development has been designed to address a number of issues and particularly paid attention to providing industrial uses and the stormwater pond and the commercial block in the south half of the site to provide the residential development in the north half, to place it as far away from the Rod and Gun Club as is possible. Recognize the concerns that the representatives have from the Rod and Gun Club. We're absolutely open to conversation with them and looking to solutions to address their concerns about noise, about drainage, and ensuring that there can be good neighbors on both sides. We believe this is an appropriate development for the subject lands, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
Was there anybody from council had any questions at this point? Jeremy?
Yeah, the sort of the easterly side of the property, I've seen a couple of maps where that easterly line goes straight north and south. And then there's another one, so this pink section there that sticks out. A couple of the other maps I saw did not have that second pink section to the east on it. Is that currently part of the entire property, that pink section on the east?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so a couple of the maps that have come out did not include that chunk of land, so I was a little bit confused when it came out. Thanks.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll be sure that gets double checked.
Any other questions? Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wonder if I could ask Planner Bannon a quick procedural question. Can you hear me, Planner Bannon?
Yes, I can.
Yes, so what we're looking at right here in front of us right now, this is just for everybody in the audience, this item here, 8.1.1, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just to receive comment portion of the event. Is that correct? And later it would be, we're not really doing any action on this report.
Through the Deputy Mayor, yes, that is correct. Tonight is to Perth East Council and to Perth County Council.
Thank you. So the purpose of item 8.1. Where are we here? 8.1.1 later in the agenda. That appears to be. How do these two items work together, if I may ask?
Certainly. Through the Deputy Mayor again. Basically, that second report is a report that details the official plan, policies, and the information for the public meeting to the County of Perth. So it gets into a little bit more detail about what's being done with the County of Perth official plan and how these lands would be brought into the Milverton settlement area. So it's for informational purposes for you at this point in time, but we separated them out into two reports. So the public meeting is being held on the Milverton official plan and the zoning bylaw. The details that we provided in both of these two reports will be related to the plan of subdivision, because we feel it's important that you see a copy of what's being designed, even though that's not part of the public meeting.
Is that correct interpretation? Thanks.
Through the Deputy Mayor, my understanding is that report is just for information purposes, so that you have all of the information in front of you relating to all the planning application subject lands tonight. No action needs to be taken recommending any sort of approval. That report, the public meeting is also being held at the county level, and it's for the county's official plan. So this public meeting is for your official plan. the Milverton official plan and for the zone change. And then that second meeting on Thursday will be for the county official plan. That's going to also be the same type. For the deputy mayor, both 8.1.1 is to receive information, and it's a report that you've been given relating to the what's going to be before the public meeting at the County of Perth. So both this public meeting and the report coming up later in the agenda are just information reports, and the first report is actually the public meeting. Hopefully that clarifies.
That's a lot simpler. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff, it's Mike, just so I think further clarification really around this. The 8.1.1 report relates to the county official plan, and in that recommendation is our council as a commenting agent approving what's being proposed. So I think that's what's creating the confusion, is in the recommendation it states, and further that Perth East Council provide a recommendation to Perth County Council that the official plan amendment 213 affecting lands as described above be approved. So I think that's what's being questioned is, are we just receiving both the Milverton official plan and the zoning information as part of this public meeting as information, as well as the information on the settlement boundary change as information? Because that's not the way the recommendation reads.
For the deputy mayor, yes, I apologize for that. I think that's the intention of the two reports that are before council tonight. The first one is for the public meeting. The second one is to receive that information that is going forward to the county of Perth on Thursday. I don't think a recommendation is required at this time because they're not in an approval stage on Thursday. It's still going to be the same discussion that we're going to have on Thursday. They're not approving any changes to their official plan either. They're just, they have that opportunity to hear from the public on Thursday.
So I think, Jeff, for our council, they will have the option when that recommendation comes forward for 8.1.1 to just receive for information. I just want to make that obvious as an option. Typically, the lower tier acts as a commenting agent for official plan amendments, and the upper tier is looking for whether or not you are in support or not in support of that official plan amendment. Planner Bannon is indicating at this point it's probably premature for this council to make any type of recommendation. Correct.
Sorry. Jeff, it's the expectation then after this meeting that once these public comments are compiled that they would be responded to by planning? That's the expectation from here out, just so they have an expectation of what happens next?
Yeah, through the deputy mayor, yes, that's the expectation. So those comments that have come back today, we will be responding to those comments in a future planning report, and we will detail out those concerns and provide a planning analysis on each of those concerns. And I will also reach out to the second speaker that has had some communication problems with previous planning, and I wasn't aware that they hadn't heard back from the previous planner in relation to the comments that they provided, but I will be reaching out to them this week to see if they've had their questions answered and make sure that I have clarification on anything that they've raised tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate staff and everybody trying to work through this. It's a lot to digest in a very short period of time. I'm going to ask some questions that I was going to save for 8.1.1. Maybe I'll ask them now and we'll just kind of get it all out of the way all at once, if that's okay with everyone. Thank you. So this is outside the settlement area. Would it be fair to say that this is an irregular process? As for the consultant said that we followed all official plan guidelines. I'm sure they have, but this itself, this process is actually outside of the official plan, since this isn't in the boundary area. Is that correct? The reason why we're seeing it like this with these reports is that it's not in the settlement area. Is that a fair statement?
You're the deputy mayor. Yes, that is a fair statement. Because this area is outside of your settlement boundary in Milverton, that is why it's being separated from lower tier to the upper tier, and why we're having two different public meetings. We're having one at the Perth County level and then one at the lower tier level for Perth East. So you are correct. That is why, because we are amending the official plan for the county in order to expand your settlement area and bring those lands into your official plan for the Milverton ward.
Thank you. That brings a second question. You may not know the answer to this, and I apologize. A lot of this has just come up tonight with all the great comments from the public. So not being in a settlement area, the 2018 master plan water wastewater study, it wouldn't have included this in our water capacity for the settlement area in Milverton. How would we address that? Because we have other areas that are on the books within the settlement area to be developed. I'm thinking we're going to run out of water because we've already had a lot of development. I don't think that anybody has a crystal ball to do this tonight, but that should seriously be considered adding, in my opinion. And is that something planning would support, or has that already been captured in any of the documentation you've seen? Thank you.
If you'd like me to respond to that through the deputy mayor, we haven't done an analysis on that yet. So they've provided the stormwater management report, and that is being reviewed by our consultant. And that type of analysis will come back when we bring a report forward to Perth East Council. And then you'll have that information in front of you before making that next decision.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? Jerry, go ahead.
No, I don't think I have any more questions, just some comments. So I trust staff will be answering all the questions that have not already been, your questions as well, Jeff, are similar to what the residents have, similar to what the Rod and Gun have as well. They're listed in your report. And I can't speak for all of us in council, but I really don't think none of us want to close the Rod and Gun. I don't think that's in the near future. None of us want that to happen. To the presenters' points, yes, they are a great asset for our community. So there's absolutely no way I want that facility closed. Yeah, we do need some more commercial places within the Milverton settlement. We do have hundreds of new homes here. We've got a couple of restaurants. We've got one grocery store. So we need these areas for these businesses to come to us. The new families, the current families that are here, love sitting down at a nice family restaurant or a pub or wherever to enjoy a good meal. So we need this industrial, commercial as well, whether it's in blocks, this 47, 48. But yeah, I totally support everything, but we got to get it right. It may not be perfect, but we got to be able to help out the province in their policies. That we need more housing. We must keep going at this again within reason. To Councillor McAlpine's point, the water, and I'm sure Public Works has that in hand. If we don't expect that this would work, I'm sure someone in staff would say, "Whoa, this is not going to work for Milverton. We do not have the capacity." So bringing these forward, I trust our staff; they're the professionals. So again, fully in support of this proposal, but again with everything, the ducks lined up to help out everyone concerned. Thank you.
Anybody else? Amanda, go ahead.
Just it's sort of a question and a comment for Jeff. So we've seen a lot of changes in planning from the province, a lot of changes recently, and I know there was an interesting decision point in Wellington County recently. So I know that Perth County is in the middle of updating our official plan, and any official plan is actually approved by the province. So in Wellington's case, I believe the province actually forced them to expand their boundary. And so I'm just sharing that with everybody that, you know, there's council decisions, but there are also other pressures. We are creatures of the province. And so we do not have our updated official plan with the county. There is a risk there. And so I'm just, you know, again, I don't want to put out hypotheticals to you, Jeff. So that's why I said it's sort of a question, but more of a comment. Just, you know, there's some, you know, interesting things happening nearby that I think we should watch very carefully, because I think we might be in a position where, you know, perhaps our boundaries are, you know, outlined for us. So I just wanted to share that little piece, and I'm sure Jeff is following all of these things very closely.
Mr. Bateman, did you want to speak to, or?
No,
You're good?
I've been very good talk. There was something that needs clarity. I was more than willing to speak, but primarily Mr. Bentov, I've sent 3 emails to him asking to sit down to see how we could work together. I have no intention of trying to shut down the Bentov. I got no. I'll work, do what we can, maybe in a berm or something like that, but I'm quite willing to do what we have to do to work. Like I say, I'm a student too. I belong to a different place, close geographically, but I know what they're saying. I've been to their club. They've got a great club. I can't say anything wrong against it. I just hope we can work together.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And as far as the drainage things go, we've had a good look at that as well, and we'll make sure things are done properly.
So that comment you made, our plan
Okay, I'll give him a call.
Okay. Okay, one quick last question.
Sorry. All right. Am I allowed to address the representative from Baker?
I guess.
Thank you. Sorry, you had made a comment about the studies that have taken place, and that, in your opinion, that the property is suitable for the development at hand. So my question to that is, have you addressed a noise study? And in doing so, how have you done that? Because we were not asked to participate in any such study where we would have the range active and able to produce the noise that it would on a regular basis.
I can tell you we have.
Through the deputy mayor, a noise study was not completed. It was not required as part of the submission of the applications. That being said, we are absolutely interested in working with your organization to find solutions, and absolutely, let's have some conversation.
So just for my clarification, because obviously I'm not a planner, what does it mean when you say it was not required? Who stipulates the requirement? The province? Okay.
The municipalities conduct, prior to any applications being submitted, municipalities, so in this case the county and Perth East, the staff would conduct a pre-consultation meeting or meetings, and they stipulate the required studies. And the applications can't be processed without those required studies being submitted. So in this instance, a noise study was not required by the municipalities.
If it was not required at that time, how do we make something be added to a requirement after the fact? Is there a way that we can add? We talked about, you know, the available water to get to those homes. We talked about noise. We've talked about other things that Bill raised earlier with concerns about overland water, environmental things that weren't required at the beginning without our input. So how do we change that going forward? How do we get those things to be part of the discussion now?
So as part of tonight's meeting and with the written submissions that have been provided by other neighbors, we will be working with staff to discuss options for going forward to address these concerns. I can't commit to you what those solutions are going to look like right now. What I can commit to you is that we will be working with staff and discussing the noise issues as well as the drainage issues, the grading, the elevation gain that the neighbors on Temperance Street mentioned, some of the natural heritage features. One of your colleagues had mentioned the Watson report. We'd be happy to provide you the link to that. It is on the Perth County website. So this is all part of the process about how we move forward. And the first step for us is to listen this evening. And then the second step is we'll be meeting with municipal staff to talk about next steps.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Mr. Bateman's comments. We are willing to discuss going forward, whatever the decisions are made. We're willing to work with both parties. I apologize if no one's responded to you, but I'll make sure that we do have those conversations. Thank you very much.
Amanda?
Just a point of clarification for our planner, and I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear. So the agent's planner mentioned that the studies that are selected are by municipal staff, and I understood that for certain planning projects, it's outlined by the province. The province dictates what studies are required for specific projects, and I just want to make sure I understand for going forward, and for those listening in the audience, I just want to make sure that point is crystal clear. And I also just wondered if there is a way or a mechanism where if there is development happening like near the gun club, that would automatically trigger a noise study. Just curious if there's a mechanism for that to occur naturally on its own.
For the deputy mayor, yes, some of those studies are required and they're provincially mandated. Some studies are required based on proximity to other properties or other land uses. So through the pre-consultation meeting, staff would identify exactly what studies need to be submitted with any application. I wasn't involved with it at the time, but my understanding is that a noise study was not identified at that point in time, whether it was a matter of staff at the time not recognizing the concerns with the Rod and Gun Club being in close proximity, or if they had taken the time to look at the noise levels that are generated and determine that they weren't necessary based on the plan of subdivision and the request that was being made. I don't have answers to that right now, but it's something that we will look into. And I think the applicant is willing to have those discussions to see how those noise concerns that have been brought up tonight can be mitigated, and what that next step is, whether it's going through a noise study at this stage, dealing with it later on, or if we put in noise warning clauses or implement other measures, mitigation measures. But that's part of the reason why we aren't before you tonight with a planning recommendation. We knew that we had some concerns that had come up through the consultation process, and we're hearing from the residents. So we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to present tonight. And then we'd have that opportunity to digest what is being heard tonight at the meeting and bring back a proper report with a full analysis, whether that includes other studies that may need to be done in order to get a recommendation in front of council that staff can support, or if that work's already been partially done and can be addressed after speaking with the applicant and the public, those that have brought forward comments. So we look forward to going through that process after tonight. But yes, there's definitely there's provincial guidelines in place and regulations in place that require some of those studies to be in place, and then some of them are in relation to, it's up to the municipality and the staff to determine what needs to be brought forward through the pre-consultation stage.
Amanda?
Sorry, just one other question. So in terms of the consult and when municipal staff identify if there's any additional studies that are required. Do we have a policy in place? Like, what I'm really getting at, like you answered my one question, but the other question really is there a way, and again, maybe it's something you take back, but is there a way where there's a mechanism where if there's development or activities happening near the gun club that it automatically triggers a noise study is what I'm looking at. Like, do we have standardization of like what for specific projects would require what additional studies in general? Like, again, I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat. It's just something now that like we're having the discussion, I think could be helpful because we have, municipal, new staff coming on board. And I think I don't know if there is a standardization or if that's typical protocol that municipal staff would have in the planning department, but it's something maybe to perhaps look at some sort of set of standardization. Again, not to add more to, trying to support projects and their development, but I just didn't know if there is standardization or something that we could look at that would give residents a reassurance of, this is a standard process that we follow, perhaps.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor, there isn't a standardized process in place that's at the county level that recognizes like a rod and gun club. We would look at implementing the noise guidelines that are being brought, that the regulations in place from the province. So we would look at that guideline and then determine, is there any concern based on surrounding land uses at the time? Again, unfortunately, I wasn't involved, so I don't have enough history to tell you what work was done and how they determined that a noise study was not required at this point in time. But it is part of when we review a submission package, we go through a list and take a look at the surrounding land uses. We look at MDS, we look at other impacts that are in the area, whether it be a floodplain or hazard lands. And then we would speak with the applicant and tell them what studies are needed as a result of the surrounding land uses and what's in the area. But I just don't have the background yet, and it's probably more of a research thing that I'm going to need to discover before bringing back a report with an analysis about why that noise study wasn't needed at the time. Whether it was a difficulty in assessing what the noise standard would be for a rod and gun club because it's not a stationary noise. It would be assessed at certain periods of time when the noise was occurring. You could send somebody out there on site and not hear anything for several hours, but if they happen to be out there when they're actually engaged in shooting, you're going to hear a lot more of that noise, and you'd have to make sure that you had the assessments being done at certain periods of time on certain days, I'm sure. I don't think it's an ongoing thing that's happening throughout the entire day. So again, it's something that we'll bring forward, and I will take a further look to see what our current process is and report back to you on that.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. Just one thing for the.
Aware of the meeting on Thursday, are we to go online and do our same presentation as we did today, or do these notes go on to that meeting?
Jeff, did you want to answer that?
Would you like me to speak to that? Sorry, it's just a small screen, so I couldn't tell if I was being directed to respond. So through the deputy mayor, your comments will be summarized verbally as part of my presentation on Thursday. I will not be providing the same level of detail that you have provided today to the Perth East Council. You're more than welcome to attend the meeting on Thursday. Preferably if you can register as a delegate, then they will know to call on you and they'll know exactly who's at the meeting, and they'll have all of your background information, your name and address before you speak. But you're welcome to attend the meeting and voice concerns to the Perth County Council on Thursday also, if you want to provide the same level of detail. When we bring a report forward to both councils. We will be providing analysis on your comments, and it'll be a detailed report that hopefully addresses a lot of the concerns that you've raised tonight.
Thank you. I will, and I will just do a rather brief presentation just to put a name to concerns of our neighbors. Thank you.
I would just, for people in the crowd, I forget when we did it here at Perth East, but on April the 6th at the county, there was the Watson report update was given to us. I'm pretty sure it was April the 6th if you want to go on Perth County. But it was just interesting that they said that we do need houses now, but at the end of the 25 years, we'll have a surplus of 100 units and 4 hectares. So how they figured that out, I have no idea, but it's there for you if you would like to look it up. Council will consider a resolution regarding the planning report recommendations following the conclusion of the public meeting. Official plan amendment number 12 and bylaw 212-2022 to implement the approval of the application will be considered at a later date. The public meeting is now concluded and we will continue with the regular meeting of council.
So the motion from the public meeting reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East received the report dated May 16th, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Milverton Ward Official Plan Amendment Number 12 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment D14, Z12 2022 PE-1803018, Ontario Inc., Bateman for lands described as Part Lot 6, Concession 3, as RP 44R2271, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, Milverton Ward, Township of Perth East for information, and that council receives comments from the public meeting for consideration regarding Official Plan Amendment Number 12 to the Milverton Ward Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw Amendment D14 Z12 2022 PE affecting lands described as Part Lot 6, Concession 3, as RP 44R2271, Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, Milverton Ward, Township of Perth East.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Jeremy, second by Bob. All those in favor?
Sorry, I'm doing my best to try and interpret and follow the rules as best I can. Maybe everybody's interpreting different. I didn't want to make any comments about this during the public meeting portion. I'm not sure. I don't think we're supposed to do that, but we'll have to, maybe we can dig into that a little later. So the environmental impact of noise. What's happened to other clubs? We've talked about, we've got a bylaw protecting them. Well, as the counselor for Ellis said, the province is our boss. So they can quash any bylaw we have. So all it takes is a couple of complaints to the right person at the Ministry of Environment, and that club will change dramatically. So that's great. We can say this, we can go through this motion, but just so everybody knows that that is fully possible with the level of development. And I'm detecting some fatigue, whether the wording is we approve it, we support development. I'm detecting some fatigue in the ratepayers in this area for all the development. So just so you know, the province, through the Ministry of the Environment, can quash any bylaw or any regulation we put in to protect the club. So I'm just putting that in there before we vote. Yeah, it's just the appropriate time to comment for something like that, other than in the public meeting, is why I'm doing it now.
Yeah, we're not. Whatever bylaws we have in place,
Okay, so we're just receiving for information. And it's been duly moved in second. And then all those in favor? Okay, that's passed. Thank you. We will now have a public hearing. Council will now temporarily adjourn to sit as the Committee of Adjustment to Section 45 of the Planning Act. I now declare this public meeting open. The public hearing is being held to consider an application affecting property currently owned by W.J. Gees Construction, described as Plan 48 M80, Lot 25, Milverton Ward, 129 Pew Street. The purpose of this hearing is to give the committee and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the proposed application and receive their input, and for the committee to make a decision on the application. All persons attending this hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. Committee members may ask questions for the purpose of clarifying the application, but are asked to withhold comments on this application until all present have been given an opportunity to be heard. Any person who wishes to receive written notice of the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked to email their name and their mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the decision made at this hearing may be filed by the applicant, the municipality, the minister, prescribed utility providers with the Secretary Treasurer no later than June the 5th, 2023. No written notice except as previously noted will be given unless requested at this time. And I would now call on Planner Hooney to present the planning report and recommendations.
Good evening. I believe I have a bit of technical difficulties, so I will share my screen without the video being on, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you able to see the presentation? Yes, I believe so. Okay. All right. So yes, tonight I'll be presenting to you the minor variance application known as Cedar Rose Home. The property is part of the Gees Plan of Subdivision, Plan number 44M80, Lot 25. The municipal address is 129 Pew Street in Milverton. The owner is proposing to construct a new single detached dwelling, and the Perth East zoning bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 40%. The owner is requesting relief from the provision of Perth East zoning bylaw in order to build the proposed single detached dwelling with a lot coverage of 44.4%. The property is zoned residential medium density R13 in the Township of Perth East zoning bylaw. The proposed single detached residential dwelling is a permitted use, and it meets the requirements for and it sets the section 12.2 sets the requirements for maximum lot coverage on properties. So I'll just go through the 4 tests for the minor variance application as set by the Planning Act. Does the proposed variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The property is recognized by the Perth County official plan as serviced urban areas within the settlement areas, and is within the residential designation in the Milverton official plan. And a single detached dwelling is a permitted use within the settlement areas. The proposed variance conforms with the county's OP and the Milverton's OP policies. Second test is, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? It is zoned R13 residential low density, and single detached dwelling is a permitted use. The variance meets the general intent of the zoning bylaw, the result. The third test is the proposed variance minor in nature. Now, the proposed development meets all the other requirements of the Perth East zoning bylaw related to setback and lot area. Therefore, the 4% increase in lot coverage is considered to be minor for this development on this lot. Fourth test is the proposed variance appropriate for the site? The development is new residential subdivision. It's within the new residential subdivision, and the surrounding properties in neighborhood are similar in size and design. Therefore, the proposed variance is considered to be appropriate for the site. As for the public comments, the notice of public hearing was provided in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act, and I have not received, the Planning Department has not received any comments as of yet. With this, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the applicant, and I request that they give their name and address for the record when they are recognized? And no one. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant agent, and I request that they give their name and address for the record when they are recognized? And we have no one. Does the applicant agent have any comment with respect to the application? Is there anybody on? No, okay. Are there any questions from the committee members? Andrew?
Thank you, Chair McDermott. Hello, Planner Derek Shen. I appreciate another great report. It seems like we're having these almost every meeting now. So just to be clear on this one, it's the lot is maxed out at 40%, which is the bylaw, and they're asking for increase of the maximum lot coverage.
Thank you. And yes, that is correct. There will be 4% increase in lot coverage.
Thank you.
Just a question. So there's an awful lot of lots there. Would you know if we've allowed a larger residence on the other lots too?
Thank you for the question. I do not have recollection. I worked on a few of these, but unfortunately I cannot think on top of my head, but I can definitely check and get back to you on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just wondering if we've allowed a lot of bigger houses on those lots, how that would affect the water for those houses. Not, but no, that's fine. You can call me anytime. Is there any more questions from the committee members? The committee will now consider a motion regarding the application.
Okay, so the motion reads that the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment received the report dated May 16th, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Application for Minor Variance D13 A05 2023 PE, submitted by Cedar Rose Home Inc. on behalf of WMJ Geese Construction Limited, affecting lands described as Plan 44M80, Lot 25, 129 Pugh Street, Milverton, Township of Perth East for information, and that the committee approve minor variance D13 A05 2023 PE affecting lands as described above with the following condition: that the owners obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Jerry, second by Bob. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. And I declare this virtual public hearing closed. Okay, now we're back. Reports, planning and development, 8.1.1. And Jeff, would you want to take that away?
Through the Deputy Mayor, I do not have a presentation prepared. It would be basically the same information from the original PowerPoint presentation. The intention is that you just receive this report so that you're aware of the OP amendment that is being heard on Thursday for the public meeting, and that you're aware of the situation, and just so you have a little bit of the background information that is prepared in the report, explaining the policy directions and the policies that are in place and why that change to the settlement boundary is required. So I'm available to answer any questions from council, and yeah, if you have anything further, I'm available.
Does anybody on council have any more questions for Jeff? Jeremy?
I don't have a question, but again, the maps that are shown on this report are inconsistent with the maps that we saw earlier. It doesn't have that little easterly part on it, and there's another map here without the southeast corner property showing on it as well. So it's just some inconsistency in how those maps are showing up. I did pull up the Perth County agenda package to make sure there wasn't, ours saying we were recommending approval and now we're just receiving for information, and essentially the county report for Thursday night is what we just did in 7.1, receiving comments for information. Just an FYI, I pulled the county one up because we need to strike that approval note off of there when we receive this.
Anyone else have any questions or anything? Okay then. Oh.
So yeah, just reading the room as it relates to the report, all we want to do is receive it. I think the recommendation, we will remove the second bullet, the end further that. All we're going to do is receive this information. I do want to make it clear though, at some point, County Council will want to hear from this council about whether or not you are in support of the official plan amendment, which is expanding the settlement boundaries. I don't believe we're in a position to make that decision tonight. I think we're gathering information. We want to see how the applicant addresses the questions, not our planner. The applicant addresses the questions that have come forward before we're in a position to say whether or not we're going to approve or not approve the settlement boundary for county. So that's where I see us being as a state position. We want to see how the applicant responds to the concerns that were raised before this council is comfortable making a recommendation to county council about the approval of the expansion of the boundary.
Oh, Amanda?
Just a question, but also will the planner be providing a recommendation based, right? So it's not just answering the questions. The planner will bring forward a report stating whether they recommend or do not recommend. And the applicant will be notified in advance before it comes to council what the planner is recommending to council. And it's up to discretion of council of how we proceed.
Correct.
Okay.
In particular, as it relates to the Milverton official plan and our zoning bylaw. This council is the approval authority for those two documents. The county official plan, the county is the approval authority, so we are a commenting agent around that. That's what confuses this a little bit. The expansion of the settlement boundary is at a county decision factor. We're just receiving information at this point, but we'll want to probably make all of those decisions at one time because that's the only way to really do it, because they all have to be made in order for this to go forward or not go forward. That's the decision of council. But at this point, we're gathering information. Consultation will continue with the applicant, and then, yeah, there will be a plenary report that will come back.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just one other question. Apologies. Is there a timeline when this will come back? Like, how does this usually treated? Because I think, obviously it's probably case by case basis. But I just out of curiosity.
Jeff, would you have any kind of timeline for that?
Through the deputy mayor. Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly when it would come back, just because of the depth of the questions that have been raised. We want to make sure that we have time to answer those questions. And I'd potentially like to reach back out to the residents before bringing a report back with an analysis to see if there's a discussion that can be had between the applicant, municipal staff, and those that we have heard from tonight to see if we can alleviate some of those concerns before we brought a report back, and then potentially had the same conversations again if those concerns haven't already been addressed. So I don't know what the timeline is and how busy the applicant is or their agent is, and when we can get the information back from them. So it's very much going to be driven by how quickly they can respond to the concerns that have been brought up tonight, and whether or not we determine that they have to do anything additional through an additional noise study, which would push back those timelines from when they can bring a report back, because we want to make sure that we have all of that information in front of us and that we're comfortable in making a recommendation before you with all of that information. So I'm going to take a guess and say it's going to be probably later in the summer when this would come back. I'm thinking that you're looking at late June at the very earliest, but more likely probably into July.
Is there any other questions? Okay.
Okay, the recommendation reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report dated May 16th, 2023, entitled Perth County Official Plan Amendment Number 213-1803018 Ontario, Inc., prepared by the planner for lands described as Lot 6, Concession 3, Milverton Ward, Township of Perth East, for information.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Andrew, second by Jeremy. All those in favor? Okay, it's passed. Okay, now we go, no CEO, clerk. Take it away, Ashley.
Eric's here. He's going to do this one.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the first report I have for you guys today is a Section 78 report for the Rofreich Municipal Drain. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It came under Section 74 previously from the same landowner, but after an on-site meeting, it was determined that the improvements they would like to be made need to happen under Section 78. So this is just to start that process. And if there's any questions, I can help and try to answer.
Any questions from council? Okay.
Okay, the recommendation reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the request for repair and improvement, Section 78 of the Drainage Act, by property owner Augustine Welch for the Rofreich Municipal Drain, Lot 23, Concession 1, Ellis Ward, Township of Perth East, for information. And further, that in accordance with Section 78(2) of the Drainage Act, the appointment of an engineer will be considered at the June 20th, 2023 regular meeting of council, subsequent to the notice advising of the proposed drainage works being sent to the Secretary-Treasurer of the Conservation Authority that has jurisdiction over the lands in the affected area.
Could I have a mover and a seconder, or is there any other questions? No, okay, mover and a seconder. Moved by Jerry, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Okay, that's passed. How are you doing the next one, Eric? Okay, go on.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the next report is the tender opening for the Branch A of the Richardson Municipal Drain. So we did receive 5 tender submissions, and staff and Bill Dietrich have recommended approval for 7 Ag Drainage Systems Limited with a bid of $46,831. For council's knowledge, the engineer's estimate for construction, which included labor, material, and equipment, was $47,370. And we did have the quarter revision today for this drain earlier prior to this meeting, and we received no landowner appeals, and the quarter revision upheld the assessment schedule.
Thank you, Eric. Questions? Oh.
Okay, the recommendation reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Tender Opening Branch A of the Richardson Municipal Drain 2023, dated May 16th, 2023, prepared by the Development and Drainage Coordinator for information, and further that Council award the tender for the construction of the Branch A of the Richardson Municipal Drain 2023 to 7 AG Drainage Systems Limited with their submission of $46,831 excluding taxes, only upon satisfactory resolution to all appeals before the Court of Revision.
Any last questions? Mover and a seconder. Moved by Jeremy, second by Bob. All those in favor? Okay, that's passed. And you have another one, Eric.
Last one, I promise. So the last report is about the Kelly Municipal Drain. It was initiated under Section 78 with the City of Stratford. So per Section 97.3 of the Drainage Act, because it affects our Township of Perth East lands, we do need to appoint a member of our council to their Court of Revision. So that's what this report is asking for.
Okay. Is there somebody special you're looking to ask?
I have no recommendations. It is in Northeast Hope Ward. I will say that.
Okay. You're good, Bob?
If someone has a burning desire to sit on this, they're welcome to it. Otherwise, as a Northeast Hope resident, I would attend.
No, if you've got other things, if you want, I can go. It's up to you, Bob. Don't matter.
It's probably best if it's a Court of Revision member, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm just a other. Yeah. Yeah. Not the only one that's told me that. Okay.
Okay, the recommendation reads then that the Council of the Township of Perth East received the report entitled Appoint Court of Revision Member, Kelly Municipal Drain, dated May 16th, 2023, prepared by the Development and Drainage Coordinator for information, and further that Council appoint Bob McMillan as the Township of Perth East representative on the Court of Revision for the Kelly Municipal Drain.
Can I have, Jerry and seconder, Amanda, all those in favor? Carried. Nothing from finance, public works. Wes, you have 2 tenders.
Good evening. So the first tender is for Road 140 road reconstruction. This tender is only for the material. The rest of the work is all done in-house. So only one submission for that.
Are there any questions?
Okay, the recommendation reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report dated May 16th, 2023, entitled Tender Results PW 2023-03, Reconstruction of Road 140, prepared by the Operations Coordinator and Manager of Public Works and Parks for information, and further that Council award the tender PW 2023-03 for the supply and placement of granular materials for the reconstruction of Road 140 to Dunnigan's Haulage 2010 Limited for the tendered price of $19.75 per ton for granular A and $18.65 per ton for granular B, exclusive of HST.
A mover and a seconder. Jeremy, Amanda, all those in favor? That's passed. Okay, Wes?
So the next tender is for Pacific and Davis Street in Melverton. This tender was prepared by BM Ross, and we had. I'm very happy with the results, and Steve Evans. We recommend them. They've have a good crew of guys, and we feel very comfortable with them.
Any questions?
Okay, the motion reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East received the report dated May 16th, 2023, entitled Tender Results, Pacific Avenue and Davis Street Reconstruction, prepared by the Operations Coordinator and Manager of Public Works and Parks for information, and further that Council award the tender, contract number 16022, for the complete urban reconstruction of Pacific Avenue and Davis Street in Milverton to Steeden Evans Limited for $2,553,097.35, exclusive of HST.
Any final questions? Bob?
Any indication when this work would begin and when it would be completed?
It needs to be completed before the end of October of this year. That was in the tender document, just for paving reasons and that type of thing. I'm anticipating that they're going to start soon because they have indicated that they don't have any underground work this year or right now. they have a lot of like paving and that type of thing. So they would, I'm assuming that we need to do a public consultation first, so, and meet with all the landowners and their property owners, and then go from there. But I have not had a timeline from them yet.
Okay. No more questions? Okay. Oh, sorry. Mover and seconder. Amanda and Jerry. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, building bylaw enforcement, non-recreation community services, non-fire, none. So that moves us to correspondence. And everybody has been given the letter, and yep, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor, I just wanted to offer a couple of comments as it related to the daycare project itself, just as a quick update for council. I think it's, you can see the correspondence that's gone back and forth between the school and the school council. We are currently working with the school board on their site plan as it relates to the daycare piece. That's been ongoing. We've met with their architect and school board reps a couple times around that. They're in the process, we are in the process of addressing the archaeological assessment requirements for the property, completing survey work as well. And we've basically come up with drafted agreements, memorandum of understanding with the school board as it relates to the parking lot portion, which will be on township retained property, as well as a future soccer pitch, which will be on the lands that were donated to the township. So those works are all happening as we speak. And yeah, we're still pushing hard to get completion as it relates to site plan, so that the project can move forward as quickly as possible. But yeah, I know that a lot of this is happening in the background, and I know the community is quite anxious, and we are as well, because this is a great project and a great need that will be filled in Overton. So we are working with the school board as best we can to move the project forward.
Is there any questions? Just one. Was there a reason why they made it a separate building and not part of the school as it is? Like, I haven't been over there for a while, so. What?
One of the main reasons were the accessibility.
Oh, okay.
Because of the contour of the existing public school. In order to build on the one end, there would be some grade changes that they just couldn't meet the accessibility requirements.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. Jerry?
Yeah, just a comment. So this entire thing was brought to my attention a few months ago. So I really appreciate staff's efforts in contacting the board and getting the communication happening between them and the school council. Because yeah, there's been some parking issues, as we all know, along Mill Street for years. So obviously, this is going to be a great addition to the community. But I appreciate everyone's efforts to get this to come together. Thank you.
Okay, would it be all right if we take care of this now and not do it under new business? Right? That's okay with everybody? Okay.
This one goes under here.
Sorry?
This one goes under here.
Oh, okay.
So the motion reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Sherry Carter, Superintendent of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Avon-Maitland District School Board, update on the child care expansion project at the Milverton Public School for information.
Could I have a mover by Amanda, second by Bob? All those in favor? That's carried. And then the one from Millbank, is there anybody going to speak to that one?
Very briefly, through you, Deputy Mayor, this is just a request as it relates to moving forward with the Trillium application. The township would be kind of listed as the primary, so I always think it's a good practice for the community groups to make a formal request for council to consider. There aren't unlimited dollars through Trillium, and there aren't unlimited numbers of applications, so this would typically be our sole application for the year moving forward. So.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay, the motion reads that the Council of the Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Frida Kipfer, President, Millbank and District Recreation Association, request for assistance with the Trillium Grant application process for the Lyle Yost Memorial Park upgrades for information, and that council directs staff to assist the Millbank and District Recreation Association with the Trillium Grant application process.
And can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Amanda, second by, oh, Jeremy? Yeah, I know. I know. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so there's no mayor's law. Council reports. Jerry?
So everyone has on their desk tonight the annual report from the library. I guess we should welcome Laura. Is this not your first council meeting? Yes, Laura is our acting CEO at the library for Kendra while she's on her maternity leave. So welcome, Laura. Yeah, our annual report's here. Great. I love how it's put together. It does all the main highlights and great pictures. So yeah, doing great things at the library. We've got our story walk coming up. Yeah, looking forward to a good summer at the library. So thanks, Laura.
And any other reports from everybody? Seeing none?
So just a motion to receive the verbal report from Councillor Smith for information. You have another one?
There's one more that I'm part of, but I wasn't able to attend on Monday night. And neither was, man, Jeremy, the Perth East Twinning.
Our
twinning committee.
Yeah, so the twinning committee met on Monday night to address some of the plans for our visitors coming during Oktoberfest of this year. So early October, they're coming for 3 nights to stay in our community. As of this point, I think we've maxed out at 72 visitors from Neresheim, Germany, that are going to be visiting us here. So it's going to be quite a few days around here. We will be getting a poster out there to anybody who wants to billet these folks. So I think we're looking for billets for maybe 55 residents for a few nights. We were kind of planning the schedule of events for them for the Friday night, Saturday night, and the Sunday. So yeah, you'll see more of that to follow. But if anyone's got an extra bedroom kicking around and they want to have a new friend for a few days, it'd be great to have a few people jump on board with that.
Okay, so we'll receive Councillor Smith and Councillor Matheson's verbal reports for information.
A mover and a seconder. Amanda? Bob? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we move to bylaws and first and second reading.
So first and second reading for bylaw 107-2023 being a provisional bylaw to provide for a drainage works known as the Wagler-Shantz Municipal Drain 2023 Northeast Hope Ward, that the bylaw listed above be read a first and second time.
Can I have a mover and a seconder? Andrew and Amanda, all those in favor? That is carried. There's no third and final readings, no closed session, no business arising from closed session. Any notice of motions? Seeing none. Any new business? Anything anybody'd like to bring up? Seeing none. Any announcements? Anything coming up? Okay. Then we'll have the confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw 22-2023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on May 16th, 2023 be read a first, second, and third time.
Can I have a mover and second? Amanda moves. Second. Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. And we will adjourn at 9:26.